let's go. We're precisely on time. We're good. Good afternoon. During the declared emergency, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. My name is Bruce Mullock. With me today on the panel are Committee of Adjustment members Lisa Valentini, Joanne Hayes, Zahir Bayat, and Aaron Cheng. This will be a virtual public hearing. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx. This is an online event platform moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting via their computer, a cell phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When his or her item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act, 1990, as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or to alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email only. You may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Procedure. I will call each item in the order it is listed on the agenda. There'll be one variation to that. We'll be beginning with an application which was shown in the notice to be on this afternoon's agenda, but in fact was listed on another notice as being on this morning's agenda, so it's been held over. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if requested by the committee. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are approaching the time limit. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and may be asked to make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals, either in support of or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after the speaker has finished their presentation. When all interested speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut, but only to those issues that were raised by the speakers. And this will mark the end of the discussion. Then the application will be taken into committee for a decision. So I'll just now ask both staff and panel members if there are any declarations of interest for the items in this time slot. Nope, seeing none. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferrals in this time slot?
None from agents.
Thank you. And once again, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any files to be closed this afternoon?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Very good. Then, as I mentioned, there is an application that was held from this morning, which we'll begin with. It's number 19, 103 Winchester Street. And it was shown on the notice to be on this afternoon's agenda, so we held it over. On this application, the committee has before it the following communication. Material submitted by the applicant. 7 photographs of the subject property submitted by the agent. A covering letter from Joanne Dolan and Brad Cicero, applicants, and presentation materials from the agent. There are commenting reports from City Planning, Heritage Preservation Services on 2 occasions, February 10 and March 10. We have received correspondence in support from 101 Winchester Street and also from 423 Sackville Street. Very good. Moderator, I'm just showing the agent is being registered for this one, okay? Okay, agent, now is your time to join us, please. Please do so by stating your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Monica Kuhn. I'm the architect and agent for the owners. And thank you for holding this back to the afternoon.
Very good, our pleasure. Okay then, panel members, on item number 19 then. Any questions from you, or do you require a presentation? Hearing none. All right then. If there are no questions, then I'll look the panel to put forward a motion. Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. Reviewed all the materials that were submitted as part of this application for the rear one-story addition and side basement walkout. The information that was submitted certainly demonstrates that a rear addition is not unprecedented in the neighborhood, and there are some that would exceed the depth of the one being proposed. Heritage has no concerns, planning has no concerns, there is neighborhood support. On balance, I believe that the variances being requested are indeed minor and meet the tests under the Planning Act. And if my colleagues have no further comments, I would move to approve the application with no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second for Ms. Hayes? There is. Ms. Valentini. So motion put forward and seconded to approve the application. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And the vote is unanimous. To carry the motion, the application is approved. And we move on now to number 21, which is the first item on this afternoon's agenda. On this item, we have before us the materials submitted by the applicant. This is 453 St. John's Road. And moderator, we do show one person registered to speak. Is that person with us? Could I connect with that person, please? Just to see if they're, what they're. Good afternoon, Miriam Okalau.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Hello, yes, you're with the committee now. Miriam, do you know whether you'll be speaking in support of the application or in opposition to it?
I don't think I need to speak. I'm in support of the application.
Just let me make sure I understand you correctly. You'll be speaking to support it?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We'll come back to you in just a moment. Please stand by.
I think she said that she won't be speaking because she is in support.
She is in support, okay. Okay, having determined that then, there are no speakers in opposition. That being the case, panel members, well, first of all, we'll ask the agent to join us. Agent, please join us and state your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing our variance today. My name is Veronica Madonna. I am the architect and agent for the owners of the property.
Good afternoon, Veronica. Okay, panel members, there are no registered speakers in opposition, so would you like a presentation or do you have questions for the applicant? Hearing none, we can then entertain a motion, please. Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we accept the application. I do not see any issues with this particular application, very similar to the one we just passed a few minutes ago. So I'm quite in favor of moving a motion to accept.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to Mr. Byatt's motion? Seconded by Ms. Hayes. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application. Panel members, all those in favor? And Mr. Chang, sorry. Mr. Chang, okay, all those in favor? Mr. Chang? Oh, thank you. So it is unanimous vote in favor of the motion. The application is approved. And panel moves on to item number 22.
Mr. Chair, can we go back to item 12? I think the agent wants to proceed. 82 Dixon Avenue.
Very good. Okay, I'm just going to ask number 22, please stand by for a moment. What we're doing here is the following. We had an application this morning, number 12, which needed to be held due to a need to connect with a zoning examiner. So we're going to go back to that applicant now and get an updated status on that application. So applicant, please join us. State your name.
Hi, Mr. Metkarski. You are unmuted on our end. If you are muted on your end, if you can unmute yourself or raise your mic volume if you're there.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Hear you now. Yes, you are clear.
Hello, my name is Nikita Matarski, and I talked earlier today, and I tried to contact the examiners, but there was no response. And second of all, I just want to say that I talked to the senior guys, and we discussed this, and we believe that that was just a typo, and according to the zoning bylaw, item number 2 still applies to the project. It's just a rear, not the front. Yeah. And we're like very confident and sure about it.
Well, I think we have then a couple of options. I'm going to run them by Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer to see if she agrees with me. One option is you could elect to remove variance number 2 from the application. That's one option we can follow. Another option would be to defer the application for correction. Let me ask Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer her thoughts.
I think the applicant does need the variance. The only thing is that it should be for the rear wall, not the front. So according to the agent, the section of the bylaw is correct, but the public hearing notice did not reference the rear wall.
So we don't really have the option of, the option is not really there.
It's either to defer for clarity, or it's up to the committee if you're comfortable changing the wording to say the maximum permitted height of all rear exterior main walls is, and then the height of the rear exterior main wall is.
Oh, thank you.
It's up to the committee how you'd like to proceed.
That's another option we have that I hadn't thought of. Thanks very much for that one. Okay, I think we better, we'll ask the applicant to stand by a moment while we take this into committee for consideration. Panel members, we've heard that third option there is to replace the word front with the word rear. And that might clarify things and get us through the issue. Mr. Chang.
I think the applicant is very certain about the changes, so I have no problem of changing the word. And if he's willing to take the responsibility of changing the word, I'm fine with that.
Mr. Bias also nodding his head. Any further thoughts, Ms. Valentini?
I guess I don't really have any issues. I just wonder if we need to, do we have to recirculate the notice, Deputy Secretary Chair? Or is that not an issue because the zoning section is correct? It's just the notification. I just wonder.
I tend to err on the side of caution, so I would prefer that it be deferred to give proper notice. The section of the bylaw was quoted correctly, but the reference was not. So where it says front, in both cases, it should have said rear. So that could have been a bit misleading for anyone who reads the notice because they wouldn't know that it should have been rear.
Well, if proper notice hasn't been given, then I suggest we defer it. I mean, I don't know.
Ms. Hayes?
Although it seems very straightforward, and for those of us who read these notices a lot, think, oh, you know, the description, the purpose had crossed out front and said rear, people should realize that. I think actually, although it you know, it's going to be a delay for the applicant, actually, to ensure when this matter comes back, there would be no confusion and no issues down the line with someone saying, well, I got the notice and I didn't care about the front, but I would have cared about the rear. Although we may find that that is, you know, the possibility of that happening is very minor, I still would believe that for all parties, the deferral would be more appropriate to ensure correct notice and that we were properly seized of the matter.
I must say, I'm trying to balance this, and I'm thinking that is probably the way to go on this, though it does, yeah, I think that is probably the safe way to go to achieve absolute clarity. At any rate, I'll ask panel to someone in the panel to make a motion with respect to, oh, maybe we don't need a motion. Let's see now. Do we need a motion to go ahead with this? Madam Deputy Secretary.
We not need a motion to.
Do we need a motion just to proceed to consider the application? Or,
No, only if there's a desire to defer the application.
Okay then, so,
But can it be
then-
coming from us, or has to be coming from the applicant?
no, this is ours to decide now. It's really.
I think the applicant wants to proceed, so.
So, let's proceed then with a motion on the application itself. Ms. Valentini, or your comment?
I think we need to defer the application so that we get proper notice to all parties. I agree with Ms. Hayes' comments, and I think I'm prepared to, I understand the applicant wants to proceed, but in order to give proper notice, we should be, in my view, deferring. So I'm prepared to bring a motion forward for deferral so that the notices can be amended. I guess, I don't know if another zoning review is needed, but that needs to be corrected and proper notice be given. So I'm prepared to bring that motion. I'm not sure if my colleagues are going to support that, but.
We shall find out. Is there a second to that motion? There is a second. Ms. Hayes seconds. So motion to defer the application, brought forward and seconded. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried. So the application is deferred in order to make the appropriate corrections and to distribute the appropriate notices. And the committee moves on now to item number 22. Number 22 for 23 Pasadena Gardens, we have before us applicant's materials, an urban forestry staff report, and a letter of interest and concern from 28 Pasadena Gardens from Virginia Marie Bowell and Rebecca Lee Bowell at that address. We also have recent communication just yesterday in the form of correspondence from Mark and Marin Anderson at 21 Pasadena Gardens. on the application, we have one speaker registered in support, none in opposition. Correct, okay. Okay, then in that case, let's go to the agent. Agent, please join us stating your name.
Hi, this is Debbie Seychelles. Thanks for having us today.
Thank you for joining us. And, well, we have the one person in support. Let's go to the person speaking in support and just get their input, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
We do hear
Hello?
you. State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Alan Bornstein. I live at 17 Sitford Court. Right, my side yard is adjacent to 23 Pasadena rear yard. I am also an architect and a good friend of the agent. And I did help with some consultation with this application. There were no fees that transpired. This was done as they're good friends of mine. I would like to note something, is that there was a typo within the letter that went out to the city for the public hearing notice, and that is with respect to item number 9. Item number 9 is stating that the parking space will be located in the front yard. There was a zoning review that was done where this item number 9, which I believe was item 8 in the zoning report, says that it's a side yard. So the parking space, as per the drawings, is in the side yard, and this is the existing parking space. Item number 10 on the zoning public notice has it correct. So we would appreciate, given that there was a zoning review and the drawings showed the parking in the right yard, and the 2 variances that we're requesting from bylaw 5692013, they contradict each other.
Number 9 and number 10 contradict each other?
Yes. It says in this case, the parking space will be located in the front yard. The subsequent number 10, it says in this case, the parking will be located in the side yard.
Do you propose to eliminate one of those
In
two?
the side yard. No, we require both variances as a result of the various bylaws that we're asking for a variance on. However, as per the zoning review that was done for this application, it has always been in the side yard. It was a typo that was just noticed in the application yesterday, and it was found, given there was a letter of interest. That letter of interest that came in picked up this contradiction.
Okay, thank you so much.
If you look at the letter of interest, the concern was, is there going to be parking in the front yard? And that individual was concerned about parking in the front yard. But there is no parking in the front yard. The parking is in the side yard, and that's an existing parking space currently. I know it sounds a bit confusing.
So if I could, Chair, are you suggesting that the second sentence in variance number 9 should have read, in this case, the parking space will be located in the side yard?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Borenstein. It's important we know that now. Okay, I'm going to go now to the panel. And panel, this is your opportunity. If you have any questions for the agent, please address them now, or would you like a presentation? Do we need a presentation because of this little bit of confusion there?
No presentation. I just, for me anyway, I don't know if Mr. Chang does, but again, do we need to amend the notice? Do we need to recirculate? I kind of feel in this case it's clear that, you know, that proper notice has been given, because a lot of people, or there has been people who have written in about the parking issue. And I think it's clear because there's parking in the side yard in the next provision, but I think we need to see what the Secretary Treasurer says in terms of notice. I don't know.
Let's do that.
I think the applicant can just ask for the correction to be made, because it's a corner lot, so I think it may have been difficult to distinguish between which was really the side yard or the front yard, and anyone in the neighborhood wouldn't really. I think most people assume where your front door is your front yard, but that's not always the case with zoning.
That makes sense.
Okay, that does help. All right, then now, so that we're beginning with the actual variances that we are going to be voting on. Let's go back according to that instruction and guidance to the applicant and ask applicant, would you be in favor of the committee changing the wording in sentence number 2 of variance 9 to read located in the side yard?
Yes, it's fine.
Agent, would you be in favor of that?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm asking the agent. Oh, I'm
That's me,
sorry,
Debbie.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
no
sorry,
worries,
agent.
no
We haven't actually invited you yet to join us, so I apologize. Please join us now and state your name.
Oh, I did right at the start. Debbie Seychelles, I'm the owner and the applicant, and yes, it would be great if you can change that to the side yard.
Thank you very
And
much.
item number-
I'm sorry, but I got ahead of myself there and went to the person speaking in support. And I just did that because
no
I was
worries.
trying to determine if there was anyone speaking in opposition. So glad to have you with us. And you would be in favor of the committee changing that, making that one simple correction
Yes.
and change. Okay, committee, so consider the application in number 9 to read side yard. Now, if you have questions for Debbie, I don't think we did have any. Did you, Mr. Chang, have a question for Debbie? Mr.
No,
Byas?
I wasn't. I was just adjusting what Ms. Belnavia was talking about. Just want to correct the word.
Thank you, okay. Mr. Byas, go ahead.
Just variance number 8, Mr. Chair. I'm a little intrigued by the fact that there will be 0% of the rear yard being maintained as soft landscaping. We could get some clarity on that.
That's a question for you, the owner. We're asking for, explain the reasoning why you need 0 soft landscape.
Okay. So we are a corner lot, so our landscaping is all in the side yard. Right now, currently, we our house that exists now is very close to the fence, which is the person in support that's on the line as well, which is his home. So there is, with the rear setback, there wouldn't be like the extension out to the side, the way that it's located with a pie-shaped lot. There wouldn't be the space there for landscaping. It's all on the side of our house.
Thank you.
Does that clarify?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good, panel. I think we can now then, panel, take the application into committee. If there's any discussion, fine, or for a motion. And this motion will be with respect to the amended version of minor variance number 9. So we'll, in other words, view the application as including that change. Anyone ready for Ms. Hayes?
I'll start. I think the characteristics of this lot have resulted in something we don't see to the extent often of this proposal is the size of a side addition versus a rear or a partial side. So, you know, from the streetscape, it almost looks like the width is almost the same as the current house. So it's a little different, but the site configuration, the street configuration, and the property, I think on a whole, when you're reviewing it all and in the context with respect to the correction of the confusion about the plans clearly showing the parking in the side versus what the variance list said, I'm comfortable supporting this application, or amended application, subject to forestry condition number 1, and that would be my motion if my colleagues had no further comment.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Byatt seconds.
I second that.
So it is moved and seconded to approve the application. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried unanimously. The application is so approved. And the panel moves right along to item number 23, 101 Heath Street West. And I'll just go over, first of all, the materials involved here, and then I have a comment to make to the panel and the public. Okay, on this application we have before us applicant's materials, cover letter from the agent, an arborist report. There is correspondence from the agent opposing the requested deferral. Correspondence from the agent waiving pre-circulation requirements dating back to March. A letter from Peter Apasnor and Michael Linton, consultants. There are commenting reports from community planning and urban forestry. We have a letter from Councillor Josh Matlow. We have correspondence both in support and in opposition. In support from 12 Deer Park Crescent and 103 Heath Street West. In opposition from two people at 105 Heath Street West, from 16 Deer Park Crescent, and from 105 Heath Street West. And then from, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 more letters in opposition from, don't have an address here, Cynthia Chrysler, from Rosemary Humphreys, agent representing Stephen Guglietti, 20 Deer Park, from 22 Deer Park, from 18A Deer Park, from 16A Deer Park, 20 from 20 Deer Park, and again from 22 Deer Park, another from 18 Deer Park, from 18A Deer Park, and from 103 Heath, and also from 45 Oriole Gardens. On this application, committee received from City Planning a staff report recommending deferral of the application, and that was on the 25th of June. On the 28th of June, counsel for the applicant wrote back to the committee to say that the applicant felt that the application had kind of been in process for a lengthy period of time, and that the applicant did not want a deferral, but rather wanted the application to go ahead, to be heard by the committee as it stands now. So, obviously it's up to the committee to make the decision whether to defer or to go ahead and hear it now. What I'm going to do now, in order to inform the committee with respect to that decision, is to canvass those who are online and registered to speak in opposition to the application. And we're going to do that. There's quite a list of them. So those that are listening, please understand what I'm coming to you now for. I'm coming to you for simply your preference as to whether we defer the application to allow more time for consultation. This was the gist of the city planning report, was that consultations were in progress now that should be allowed to play out between the applicant and neighbors. So what I want to know from the people who are registered and online now waiting to speak is whether you'd prefer to defer the application to allow more consultation, or whether you'd prefer to have the application heard now as it stands, and to have committee decide upon it based on its merits as we listen to it today. So we won't get into any of the merits of the actual application, just your choice, defer or hear it now. Moderator, do we have Jean Fraser with us? Okay, Jean Fraser, please join us and state your name. Would you like to defer or go ahead?
Hi, if the speaker can unmute themselves on their end or increase their mic volume or telephone volume. Through you, Mr. Chair, it seems the speaker may be experiencing some technical issues.
We'll go on. We'll come back. Yep. Next, we'll go to, we'll ask Thomas Rowley to come on, identify himself, and indicate his preference.
Can you hear me?
We do.
Thank you. My wife is Jean Fraser, and we both believe that we'd be happy with a deferral if committee chose to grant it in accordance with the planning department's suggestion.
Thank you very much. Next to Ian McDonald. Mr. McDonald, please join us. State your name and your preference.
My name is Ian McDonald. I'm working. I was retained by Jeannie Fraser and Tom Raleigh. So if they're in favor of deferral, then so am I.
Very good. Okay, Kathy McDonald. Join us, please. State your name.
Hi, Kathy, you're unmuted, if you can speak.
Okay. Yeah, Kathy here. The Deer Park Residents Group letter said we would support a deferral for discussion with the applicant, but the applicant is unwilling to have a deferral, then the application should be heard now.
Kathy, let me explain the procedure here. It's the committee.
Oh.
The Committee of Adjustment makes that call. The Committee of Adjustment will decide whether to hear it. So we know what the applicant would like to do. They'd like to have it heard. I'd like to hear what your preference is. This is in order to inform committee members about how. So would you like to hear it heard now, or would you?
I would support a deferral because I believe that consultation is a better way to resolve issues.
Thank you. I'll next go to Rosemary Humphreys and ask your preference, please, Rosemary.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. We're indifferent. We're prepared to proceed whichever way the committee chooses at this point, sir.
Thank you very much. That's fair enough. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll go next to Jonathan Sasso. Jonathan, please join us. State your name and your preference.
Hi there. I'd like to echo Rosemary's sentiments. We're indifferent with either. We're prepared to proceed today should the committee wish to do so.
Jonathan, the committee decides. The committee wants to go, will go either way, but we're being informed by the opinions of those parties involved. The committee doesn't have a preference either way. And neither do we. Okay.
Okay.
All right then. Fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And that's all the speakers in? Oh, okay. So panel members, just to sum that up for you. We just spoke with 6 speakers. 4 of the 6 stated preference for deferral. That would be in accordance with the staff report. 2 said that they really didn't have a strong opinion either way. That does help us. That informs us. And so now, I would like to. I think it's before we proceed. In view of this, I think we should entertain a motion on this topic of whether to proceed or defer. And so I'll look to panel members for a motion in that regard, please.
Just a question
from the applicant.
From the applicant. I was just going to say.
Go ahead. Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
I was going to say, Chair, although we have a written submission from the applicant, do we wish to, I think I would like to hear from the applicant on the deferral request orally, please.
I think you're quite right. Excellent point, thank you. Okay then, let's flash back to the applicant or agent. And agent, could you confine your remarks just to this question of going ahead or deferring and explain your reasoning for your position?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike Drower. I was here a little bit earlier for a different application. That's again Mike Drower, D-R-O-R, and I'm a land use planner at Bellsfields. This proposal has been a long time coming. Prior to my firm's involvement in the project, the owners began discussions with community planning back in 2018. I believe it was August 2018, so almost 3 years ago now. And when our firm became involved in early 2019, we began having numerous meetings with staff in order to refine the application. We got general support for the concept from staff in early 2020, and then eventually submitted for a site plan application in June of that year, June 2020, about a year ago. And then we filed this minor variance application and a site plan resubmission earlier on this year. Since filing the minor variance application, our team held a community meeting with the councillor's office on June 1st. We also met with some of the neighbors a number of times, including a site visit to understand the concerns of 3 of the adjacent neighbors at 16A, 20, and 22 Deer Park Crescent at their request. And that was a visit to the site to understand their concerns directly. And we've also continued to engage with city staff about the application. We believe that a lot of the outstanding concerns are either items that we may not be able to resolve, such as disagreement about the height and density, or that they are site plan matters which we are very open to addressing as part of the site plan application, which is still ongoing. And we feel like there's various ways that we can mitigate some of the concerns about light, view, and privacy issues. And actually, we've already committed to doing so in writing to the owners of those 3 properties in particular, just based on the discussions we've had. I also just wanted to note that there is actually 2 letters of support I believe there's another one, one from Mr. Cameron Smith at 45 Oriole Gardens is actually a letter of support, not objection.
Yes.
Although it is mislabeled on AIC. And given the fact that this has been a long time coming, but we have had many discussions, and we do feel that we're able to address some of those concerns that are outstanding at the site plan stage, we're asking you to refuse the request for deferral and to hear the application today.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant panel? With respect, go ahead, Ms. Valentini.
Just curious in terms of outstanding discussions or things that need to be discussed. Is it just with, not just with, but is it with neighbors and staff, or are you, I don't know if you can speak to that, but are you addressing outstanding concerns with planning staff as well?
We did have, Mr. Chair, we did have discussions with staff about additional changes to the building. Ultimately, we weren't able to get staff support. This is over the past few months. We've been trying to get staff on board with the application, and we felt we were moving towards an agreement, but in the end, we weren't able to do so. As such, we decided to revert back to to not proceed with revisions and continue with our current application, given the fact that we had this hearing and we want to move this application forward.
Thank you very much.
So then if the deferral then, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out if a deferral would be of any use if you're not willing to have any more conversations. Is that the case, or?
We are certainly able or willing to have more conversations, and certainly there's still the site plan process, which is ongoing. Pardon me. It's still ongoing, and there's still time to have those discussions through there. But in terms of items that will impact the variances, I think we're comfortable with the building as proposed, and the site plan as proposed, and want to move forward as is.
Thank you.
Okay then. At this point then, panel, let's take this question of go ahead or defer into committee for discussion and a motion. Once again, you've just heard the applicant explain why he'd like to go ahead now. Process has been going on for a long time for the applicant. On the other hand, there is much opinion about this in the community. Obviously, a number of letters, and there are 4 people registered to speak today who are willing to say no. We would rather see it deferred for further consultation and come back again another time to consider the application then. So let's hear some thoughts from inside the committee, please. Ms. Hayes.
My initial thoughts would be, given the responses to the questions of my colleague from the applicant, it would appear, and I stand to be corrected, but it would appear that the applicant is prepared to have discussions with respect to site plan issues, but it doesn't appear that the, for lack of a better word, the scope of the project or the variances being requested at this point of time they foresee as part of that discussion. If I'm correct in that, then I really don't see conditions with respect to site plan. Should the committee hear the application and decide to approve it, can continue. But if the applicant is stating that at this point of time they don't see that they would be prepared to make amendments to the variances being requested, I don't see the purpose of a deferral. That would be my first thoughts.
Thank you. Yep. Further comment, please?
I'd like to weigh in. I'm always in favor of deferrals, so that proper consultation can happen with neighbors, residents associations, and staff. If there's a chance of things actually moving forward or changing changing and everybody, you know, everybody's sort of coming to the table and negotiating or, you know, having an open mind. I agree with what Ms. Hayes has said in terms of my sense from the applicant is that perhaps, yes, there'll be ongoing discussions relating to some of the issues, but that none of these issues will relate to the variances that are before us. It's helpful from, in my perspective, to see what the actual building is going to look like or site is going to look like once it's complete. But, you know, if the applicant isn't prepared to discuss changes that are going to significantly or impact the variances, then I don't see the purpose of the deferral as well. I don't think it's going to impact what's before us. So I agree with what Ms. Hayes has said in terms of how, you know, you can't force those discussions or those changes. So
thank you.
The deferral may not make sense.
Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I always tend to listen to colleagues in the planning department, engineering department, and so on, and to a large degree be guided by them, as well as the members of the community who have indicated their preference for a deferral. The fact that this message from the community planning was issued just at the end of June, not long ago, about a week and a half ago, suggests to me there's good reason for a request for deferral, and that would be my choice.
Thank you. Mr. Chang.
Yeah, this time I agree with my colleague about allowing it to defer mostly based on the planning staff report. They certainly would spend that much of time issue a staff report recommending us to defer based on their experience. And based on the preparation of the letter, it seems that there are quite a lot of moving parts that are still being negotiated. So I would suggest to defer the application.
Thank you. For my part, I think on balance, it's my experience that we don't too often get this kind of staff report recommendation from staff, and when I read their report, it struck me that there must be some basis for it, some consultation happening that that has some legs and that has some potential for improving the overall nature of the application in such a way that it might have broader support. So I think my thought too would be to go with the opinion of the majority of the registered speakers and with the staff report in the form of a deferral. So there we are, panel. I'll look to anyone in the panel to come forward then with a motion, please. Mr. Byatt.
Mute. Zahir.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got thrown off by the muting. I'd like to bring forward a motion to defer this particular application at this point.
Motion to defer by Mr. Byatt. Is there a second to that motion? It is seconded by Mr. Chang. So motion forward and seconded to defer. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands, please. Those opposed. Motion is opposed by Ms. Hayes and Ms. Valentini. The motion is carried and the application is hereby deferred for further consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Just to clarify for the applicant in response to the letter on file, this is not a decision. There was a motion to defer making a decision. So there would be no decision to appeal, and our minutes will reflect that.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. And with that, the panel does move on. We go to number 24 on our agenda, which is 183 South Kingsway. On this application, we have before us the applicant's materials and one letter in support from Michael and Connie Leggett. Would appear to be next door at 185 South Kingsway. So, I'll ask the applicant or the agent now to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, it's David Lang. I'm the agent for the application 2100 Blue Street West.
Good afternoon, David. Okay. Panel members on this application, any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, I'll ask panel then to move on to a motion, please. Ms. Valentini. Ms. Valentini, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I thought I unmuted myself. I'm in support of this application, Mr. Chair. They're proposing to add a rear two-story addition, which really essentially fills in a notch. So they're going back as far and as wide as the current footprint, which is filling the notch in. So I see no impacts in my view with this proposal. I think these variances are fit within the forward test in terms of there being minor and meeting the official plan and zoning bylaw, the purpose and intent. So I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application without any conditions.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Hayes. So there is a motion to approve, put forward and seconded. All those in favor, show of hands, please. That motion is carried unanimously and the application is approved. Panel moves along to item number 25. 856 College Street. Here we have before us applicant's materials, various Committee of Adjustment decision numbers from previous decisions from 2008, 2009, 2012, 2016, which all affect this property. We have a commenting report from City Community Planning. There is a letter from Councillor Anna Bylaw. There is support in support correspondence from Canada Group Realty Corporation, from 419 Ossington, 127 Concord Ave, from Elizabeth Duncan, from Michael and Maria Sinopoli at 840 College, Justina Sinopoli at 838 College, Michael Sharif at 419 Ossington, and Pamela Bertrand and Hans van der Zande at 5 Concord. There is an 8-signature petition in interest signed by occupants of 850 College, and there is a 14-signature petition in interest. This again in opposition, signed by the owners of 858, 858A, 858B, 858C, D, F, 860 College, plus 710 and 12 Concord Ave, and 448 Ossington. All right then. But we just have with us, tell me if I'm right, Mr. Speaker, we just have with us the agent. There are no registered speakers in opposition. Okay. So, that being the case, panel, we don't have any speakers in opposition, but we have a 14th signature petition in opposition. I, for one, would like to hear a quick presentation from the applicant on the application. So let's, applicant, would you join us, please, stating your name?
Yes, this is David Wolf.
Good afternoon,
Can you hear
David.
me?
Good. Yes, we do hear you. Thank you very much. Okay, David.
So I'm the owner with my wife at the Caledonian at 856 College Street. We've been in business for 11 years with no issues on our back patio. We're not asking to do anything different on the back patio. It's been in existence for 11 years, and there's actually been a patio at the same location, a licensed patio, for 30 years. So we're a family-run restaurant and pub, and we have a bunch of people obviously in favor of us. Our neighbors to the west, I believe, are not really saying they're in opposition. They're saying that they want to have the regulations that were stipulated 5 years ago by the committee, which our deputy mayor and councillor proposed as well, and we would agree with that we should only be open from 11 to 11, have no music or amplified sound on the patio. And if you notice on the site plan, to the rear of our patio, we have a 10-foot by 25-foot garage, cinder block garage, that blocks our patio from the laneway. So that can stops any noise or anything from going through there. And again, we've been in business for 11 years. We're a family-run business with no issues on our patio, and we would look to have that propose that we could continue operating our existing patio without any changes, continued with the proposal made by the deputy mayor. But we would like to make that a permanent decision, that we wouldn't have to come back to the committee. Obviously, the last year and a half for small businesses and restaurants has not been easy. Our patio is our lifeline to continue. We have 14 staff, all local to the area. Some have been with us since the beginning, since 2010, and I believe hopefully we're a great community run place. So looking to get that application approved, that we can continue to operate our patio with those parameters in place that the committee put into place originally, and but to make that a permanent decision. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That is helpful. I'm going to begin the questioning, Mr. Wolf, if I may, just for clarity of my own mind of a couple of things. So your current approval wraps up in November, and it was for 5 years or 3 years?
That was for 5 years.
Okay. And
the original one was for 3 years.
And the difference this time around is that you'd like to kind of move outside the realm of these time-limited approvals and get a permanent approval.
Yeah, and as the deputy mayor stated as well, is if we tore down the garage, we would have to go to the committee. If we sold the business, and I know that was a concern 5 years ago, they said if you sell the business, someone might come in and play music. And I'm saying is if the license changed hands, then maybe they'd have to go back to the committee. I think just that we've proven over the last 11 years with no issues that, you know, we are good for the neighborhood and people enjoy coming to us, and without music or any stipulations in place, that paying the $4,000 right now to come to the committee is hard for us, obviously being closed for 15 months. And that's why I don't have a city planner doing this. I'm trying to do it myself, and I apologize if I'm not coming off as I'm a restaurateur. I'm not a city planner, but to spend another $5,000, so you're going to have $9,000 or $10,000 to come to the committee every 3 to 5 years, is a burden on a small business. It really is. But I mean, we've been around for 11 years and very successful. I mean, most restaurants don't last 11 years. So we're a family-run restaurant, following the rules, and I think we want to continue. We just signed a new 5 and 5 10-year lease, so we're not planning on going anywhere, and we'll continue to follow those rules.
Do you tell me about you have no amplified music or music of any kind on the rear patio? Inside the main part of the building, you do have music, I assume, or sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're an older crowd. It's not, you know, we're not blaring music or anything like that. But one thing too that the deputy mayor suggested is that, you know, we don't have our windows open, that it's streaming out the back or anything like that, and we would agree to that.
Okay, panel members, other questions for the applicant from panel? Don't appear to be. Go ahead, Ms. Hayes.
I don't have a question, but I will start discussion. I think the history of the applications on this site and the submissions, both in writing and before us now today, indicating that there really has not been any complaints with respect to compliance with the conditions for the patio. It's been long-standing. It's not an unprecedented. Patios and restaurants aren't unprecedented in that neighborhood. I would support the variance application as applied for with the conditions outlined in the planning report. And that would be my motion if my colleagues have no further comments.
So there is a motion then to approve, seconded by Mr. Byatt, to approve. Right.
And subject to the planning conditions.
And subject to planning conditions. Okay. All right then, motion before the panel, seconded. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And the motion is carried and the application is approved, subject to planning conditions. Thank you. Panel moves along to number 26, 171, Brookside. Here, the panel has before it applicant's materials, support correspondence from 167 Brookside, 173 Brookside, 166, 169. There is correspondence in opposition from 154 Watson Avenue. And moderator, we do have one registered speaker here in opposition. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'll ask the owner to join us now by stating your name, please.
Hello, my name is Alisa Kerr, and I'm the owner of 171 Brookside Avenue.
Hi, Alisa. Alisa, we're going to ask you to make a presentation describing what you propose to do to the panel, and you'll have 5 minutes going ahead, starting now.
Absolutely. So, as I said, I'm the owner of 171 Brookside. We have been living. My partner and my son and my elderly mother, we have been living in our home for 10 years. It is a bungalow, stick-built home with a brick veneer, and it's pretty old. We do love our house very, very much. My son grew up in this home, and this is the only home he knew, and he goes to school down the street. We're also planning on having more children, and that said, we need more space to meet needs of our family. So the home's roof, if you look at the, I don't know if you have Google view, the home's roof is sagging, and like, to be honest, the whole house needs a substantial structural upgrades. And so Brookside Avenue, I don't know if you know, it's a very, very tight community, and we look after each other. I personally, my son and my partner, we have many friends in our street and neighborhood, and it's a gem, and I do not see myself relocating to meet my needs anywhere. I've spoken to my neighbors, and all of them supported me. Some of them elected to write the letters, although some elected just say, like, we're not gonna write, but they send me an email saying good luck. I believe variances we're requesting are on the minor side. The home was designed with the thought of a prevailing architectural style in Bloor West Junction neighborhood, which is craftsman style. And, you know, it's very common to see in Bloor West. We decided not to go modern at all, because we really
love the historical neighborhoods where we are. And we also work very closely with our immediate neighbors who we share a front yard with. In designing our home, we considered the existence of their windows and having light access to their bedrooms. And we decided to build, not to, one side would be off, not to build on the existing wall to accommodate their children's windows so their kids can still enjoy the natural sunlight. And I think this is all what I have for now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Panel members, questions? No, well, just hold your questions, please. We'll go to the registered speaker who's standing by. Okay, would you join us, please, Rose, and state your name as you do.
My name is Rose Samaru, and my house is directly behind 171 Watson Avenue. And I oppose some of the changes, like the second story balcony. I feel it's an invasion of my privacy. She said that she'd change it, but I'm not actually sure. But my family is against the second floor balcony. And the third story addition, we oppose that because my family, we enjoy a beautiful skyline and a beautiful view, and we like the natural light and the sunlight and everything. And that third story is going to block our view and our sunlight and our beautiful skyline that we enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions for the speaker panel? No? Hearing none, we'll return to the applicant. That was the neighbor directly behind you, whose family concern was overlook onto their property from the second floor balcony that you're proposing, and also concern that it would block sunlight and block some of the view from their property. Can you address those concerns, please?
Oh, hi, yes. Actually, I think Rose was, I know Rose really well. I went and I spoke to her. As you can see, there's no variance for balcony. There are no balconies in my design. And we, as I said, we have worked very tightly with all neighbors, and we considered actually their needs over ours. And to be honest, I don't know if you have survey, I don't know, or any way you can move Google, if I can show Google Street View for my driveway, if there is a way to see it. So Rose's windows do not look at my house. They look at the over garage and they look down the driveway. And also there is existing, I submitted additional material showing that there is a very large 5-trunk Siberian elm tree that is not going anywhere, and it will be, it is there, and it basically, my addition will be behind that tree. And the tree's Siberian elm grows from 10 meters up to 20 meters, and it's still growing. Also, we have, as I said, incorporated a third story, which is not a proper full story. It's a game room and it's an office space for our needs. Sorry. So it's basically in the roof. Each house, it's a 2-story with a space under the roof, and it's not a square roof. Any 2-story home would require a roof. And when I'm in my backyard, there is no shade going at all it does not block sunlight at all to Rose's home. And that's, like, I took a picture, if you can see that there's absolutely, the home is not large enough basically to block the sunlight.
Thank you very much.
There are two, okay.
Okay. Further, are there questions, panel, for the applicant owner? No. Okay. Hearing none, then let's take the application into committee for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to jump in on this one. I actually, in reviewing all the information, and I think the plans were quite clear. I think, in my view, that this is going to fit nicely within the neighborhood. I think great care has been taken to design something that is sensitive in terms of the prevailing architecture and style with the pitched roofs, and that's also going to address any massing in terms of it being 3 stories. I mean, 3 stories are allowed, but I think the pitched roofs will help mitigate any impact from that perspective. And I think I look at the plans. In terms of the depth of the house, it's similar in nature to the adjacent neighbors, and they've taken care to step back the 3rd floor. So I think that there will be, minimal to no impact from the additions being proposed in this case, and I'm in support of the application. I'm happy to bring a motion, but I don't know if my colleagues want to have anything else to add. No? Okay, I will bring a motion for the reasons just stated. I will bring a motion forward for approval of the application.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Hayes. There's a motion, seconded, to approve. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion and to approve the application. And the panel moves on to number 27, 2267 Dundas Street West. On this application, the panel is simply dealing with the materials which the applicant submitted as part of the application. And I'll ask the agent to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Moot, Principal Moot Architect, agent on behalf of the owner of 2267 Dundas Street West.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good afternoon. Okay, let's check with panel. Panel, any questions for the agent? Is a presentation required? Would anyone care to go forward with the motion? Mr. Byatt. Go ahead, Mr. Byatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move, this is a very straightforward item. I move that we move forward with a motion to accept the approval.
Very good.
Sorry, approve the application.
Thank you. Second to that motion? There is a second. Mr. Cheng seconds the motion. So there is a motion seconded to approve the application. Those in favor? Unanimous vote to carry the motion and approve the application. Thank you, Mr. Moot. On the next application, number 28, 17 Coulson Avenue, the committee has before it applicant's materials. There's a cover letter from the agent received on March the 2nd. There are commenting reports from Transportation Services and also from Urban Forestry. And I'll now ask the applicant or the agent to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mark Dundas. I'm a planning associate from Gagnon Walker Domes Urban Planners, and I am the owner's agent.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Panel, do we want a presentation in this case? Do you have questions you'd like to put to Mr. Dundas?
Hi, Mr. Chair. If I could just, I had made a note, sir, that in terms of the depth variance you're requesting, it really just applies to the basement, and as we move up above grade, the first floor is at 19.91, and then the second is at 18.76 meters deep. Is that correct? Did I read your plans right?
Through the chair, that is correct. It kind of varies as you go up in the levels, but the basement level is the longest of the depths.
Any further questions, panel? If not, would someone like to go forward? Ms. Hayes, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having reviewed all the materials that are on the file, I'm convinced that what's being proposed is indeed appropriate, and the design certainly would meet the character of the neighborhood, and the variances are not out of line, and what's being proposed mirrors very much other built forms in the neighborhood. So if my colleagues have no other comments, I would move to approve the application subject to forestry condition number 2, and also noting that transportation had no objection to the driveway given the existing condition.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Ms. Valentini. So we have a motion seconded to approve subject to forestry. Those in favor? Show of hands, please. Those in favor? Okay. Mr. Chang? Thank you. And the motion is carried. The application is approved subject to forestry. On number 29, which is 127 Barton Ave, there are materials before us submitted by the applicant, and we do have an urban forestry report from tree protection and plan review. And I'll ask the agent to join us. Please just state your name.
Hi, Mr. Allen, you are unmuted.
Yes, you hear me now?
Yes.
We hear you now. Just state your name, please.
Okay. I'm Daniel Allen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Allen.
Afternoon.
You're now with the committee. Okay. On 127 panel, does anyone require a presentation? Would anyone like to put questions to the applicant? Is anyone ready to make a motion? Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reviewed all the materials, and in my view, this is a very small two-story addition. It's a small bump out at the back. I don't see there being any issues in terms of impact on adjacent neighbors. In my view, it meets the 4 tests. So I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application, and it's subject to the conditions set out in the urban forestry report, urban forestry number 2.
Thank you very much. Second on that one? There is a second. Mr. Byatt seconds. There is a motion seconded to approve. All those in favor? Show of hands, please. Motion is carried, and the application is approved subject to forestry. And panel moves along to number 30. On number 30, we have the applicant's submitted materials, and there is a letter of interest or concern from Colleen Bryan and Reno Griboval from 188 Markham Street. So, on this item, we do have one registered speaker in opposition. Is that speaker with us?
Yes, both the speaker in opposition and concern are present.
Thanks, moderator. Okay. Okay, in that case, I'll ask the applicant or the owner to join the panel by stating your name.
Yes, hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Robert Danish. I'm the owner of 186 Markham Street.
Very good. Good to have you with us. Thank you. You'll have 5 minutes to present your proposal to the panel. Starts now. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thanks so much, and thanks to the committee for hearing our application. This is a small two-story side addition. I've lived here since 2011 with my two sons, so I first want to explain why we're doing it, and then I'll address the 4 tests that you've got. In January of this year, my new partner moved in with us. And at the same time, all 4 of us, my two sons, myself, and my partner, were working from home or going to school from home. And of course, that proved almost impossible with the current house. I'm a professor at the University of Waterloo, and I'll continue working from home until September 2022, and working part-time from home thereafter. So the plan calls for an addition of a closed office space on the 2nd floor, which is essential to my work circumstances. The 1st floor space and the bathroom on the 2nd floor is to accommodate new family living arrangements and to make possible any more ongoing or existing work from home or school from home circumstances. So to the 4 tests, my understanding is that the committee must be persuaded that the requested variances meet the 4 tests. So is the variance minor? The first thing I'll say is that FSI is increasing by about 24 square meters. We believe that's a very minor change, especially in comparison to projects approved close by. So for example, 199 Palmerston, which is right behind my house, had an FSI increase of 162 square meters and was approved by the committee just 2 weeks ago. There's other properties close by, 185 Palmerston, 208 Markham, 161 Palmerston, all 3 had much, much higher FSI increases approved. So this is minor. The variances regarding the building depth are also minor, given that the addition will simply align with the existing building depth and the existing building depth of 184 Markham Street, my neighbors to the south. Will also be about 3 meters shorter than 188 Markham Street. The eaves troughs and the side lot line variances are 0.1 and 0.17 meters outside of current zoning requirements. Those are, by definition, very small. They just allow the building to be consistent from front to back, so the front part of the house is already at these measurements. So is the change desirable for the appropriate development of the site itself, the land and the building? The house will look exactly the same aesthetically. It will have the same use. In other words, it's going to remain a single-family house with no change to the neighboring lands. Does the application meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw? Well, the changes are consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws in that they maintain appropriate relationships between the buildings. I'm thinking in particular 188 and 184 Markham Street and 185 Palmerston. I'm not altering the land use in any way, so we're not going to be infringing on privacy or use of any neighboring spaces. There'll be no shadowing, no additional areas for snow buildup, etc. And then the final test is whether we meet the general intent of the official plan. So the character of the house is not being altered at all. It'll look exactly the same from the front of the street, and we're actually providing additional privacy for 188 Markham Street, in that we're eliminating 2 side windows that look directly onto 188 Markham, and we're also ceding access to the side passageway entirely to 188 Markham Street. So no aspect of the addition will overlook either 188 Markham, 184 Markham, or 185 Palmerston, which is the property behind me. So there's no obstruction being proposed to anyone's light or views or anything else. So the last thing I'll address is the one letter the committee received. I don't believe the letter deals with any of the tests. So the content of the letter doesn't appear in the purview to be in the purview of the committee from my perspective. In fact, the letter says, quote, "We make no objection to the variance application and the proposed construction." So in my view, that letter should be properly viewed as a letter of support and not as a letter of obstruction. But in the interest of good faith, and because I'm a good neighbor, I'll point out that the plan does not call for any windows on the north side of the property. The plan doesn't require the removal of the fence, and even if it did, my understanding is that we would need a permit for that, which doesn't fall under this committee's jurisdiction. And access to 188 will be maintained throughout the project. So just to summarize, we're asking to add a very small amount of space, but that space is absolutely critical to the functioning and well-being of my family. So a little bit of space changes very little about the house from the perspective of the neighborhood or the neighbors, but will be enormously helpful for those of us that live in the house. So thanks very much for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go on now to the registered speaker who's standing by. And
through you, Mr. Chair, Amelia and Fernando Morera, they've hung up. They were on the line and they hung up. Do you want me to try again and move on?
Let's go to the next speaker then down the list. And this is the speaker who's speaking in concern, and I believe it's the same gentleman who submitted a letter to the committee. So, Mr. Griboval, if you're with us, please state your name and join us.
Hi, we cannot hear you. If the speaker can unmute themselves on their end or turn up their microphone volume. Through you, Mr. Chair, I can try giving him a call.
Please do that. So we do have two registered speakers on this application. We're just going to try again to make contact with them.
Hello, the speaker is unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We hear you. We hear your voice. Tell us who you are, please.
Okay. My name is Ray Griboval, and with my wife, Colleen Bryan, I own the property at 188 Markham Street, which is immediately adjacent to Rob's property. I just want to say that we don't really oppose the variances that are being requested, but we do have a number of issues that have been listed in the letter that we sent you. And we've had no talk with our neighbor about this, and it's been decided rather quickly. So what we'd like to do would be to have a little bit more time to deal with these issues. And we're talking primarily, I guess, debris damage from construction, because there's not a whole lot of space between these two houses, and also the security, which is fairly important. I heard what Rob said about not touching the fence, but I find that difficult to believe, because there's just not enough space for a construction crew to get in there and do construction without probably removing part of the fence. So what we'd like to do, really, we'd like to have some sort of assurance that if indeed it gets to the point where these issues have to be relaxed, that, you know, there's going to be some sort of remedy to make sure that we maintain our security. As we've said in the letter, prior to us putting a gate and lock to that fence, we actually had a break-in, and so we don't want that to happen again. So this is really So these issues, they're not related to the variances, but they're related to our own security, our privacy, and making sure that the house is not going to be damaged from construction. And it'd be great if we have some sort of a document that would undertake that, and perhaps the application could be deferred and we can negotiate something about that. That would be great. But this is really where we're at here. We don't want to stop Rob from improving, his house for his family. I mean, we don't want to do that. But we do want to make sure that our property will not be affected by that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Griboval. Well, let me give you a little bit of insight into the city and the different departments within the city and how these matters are addressed. First of all, your concerns are not unusual. Neighbors often have this kind of concern and worry, and it's legitimate to be concerned about them. Here's what the Committee of Adjustment is doing. Our mandate is to consider the 4 minor variance requests from the bylaw that the applicant has put forward. So that's really as far as this committee's mandate goes, is to look at those and to consider whether or not they meet the 4 tests that we work by. The one item that you did mention that was sort of within our purview was the one about the windows on the north side. And I think even you have, you stated in your letter that you're reasonably satisfied that windows on the north side will not be up against windows on your property. So, and Mr. Danish also spoke to that, saying that that would not be the case, but it's all there in the plans in any case. The other issues that you raise are primarily issues, some of them are construction issues, some of them might be handled between you and Mr. Danish with a private owner-to-owner agreement, but they're outside the purview of the Committee of Adjustment to consider. If you had concerns during construction about some of the items that you raise in your letter, then you would get in touch with the city's construction department and ask them to examine the situation. So that's what we can do, and so that's what we will be doing this afternoon. So we're not about to defer the application based on items that are outside the jurisdiction of the Committee of Adjustment. We will be, in all likelihood, proceeding now to make a decision for or against based on the 4 minor variances that the applicant has put forward in his application. So that's where we stand on that. I'm going to go back now to the other registered speaker who was actually registered to speak in opposition. Have we got contact yet?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I tried calling them again and they hung up, or they didn't answer.
They didn't answer.
Yeah.
Okay then, so we've made good efforts here to contact Amelia Morera and Fernando Morera, who had registered in advance to speak in opposition, but those attempts to connect are unsuccessful. So we are back now to Mr. Danish, and so the question at this stage is whether we need a presentation or not. Panel members, do you require a presentation? Do you have questions for the owner? Okay. I'm sorry, is there a question? Ms. Hayes, go ahead, please.
I don't have a question. I thought if no one had a question, I'd be prepared to move a motion on this matter.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I've reviewed all the materials on the file and listened to the submissions. I have noted the concerns of the neighbor, but as you have aptly described, those are not matters that we can determine here. I think the proposal that's before us is indeed very minor. It is just filling in a gap at the rear of the property. The depth is not changing. I think, 24 square meters and the increase in FSI as a result of that is indeed minor, and I would move to approve the application, no conditions.
Is there a second to that? Yes, there is. Mr. Byatt seconds that motion. So motion put forward, seconded to approve. All those in favor, show of hands, please. Vote is unanimous to carry the motion and to approve the application. Thank you. And panel moves to item number 31. (170) Coulbeck Street. We have before us applicant's materials, a previous Committee of Adjustment decision from 2013, which affected this property. And there is correspondence in support. From 165 Coulbeck, 164, 167, and 171. And I'll go now to the agent and ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Yes, this is Jordan Winters of Wayback Architects, agent for Tim and Shannon.
Thank you very much. Okay, panel members. Questions for the applicant? Is there a motion with respect to this application? Mr. Byatt, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I was just looking at a Google view of the property on the imagine it's the west side, I think. There is part of the second floor that already extends out. Is the idea really to extend it further right across the house? Is that essentially the approach?
No, the intent of the project is a one-story addition at the ground floor level where there's an existing porch and an existing overhanging roof.
Yes.
The extent of the front addition moving towards the street is in line with the existing house, face of the house, the brick below that you can see.
Great. Thank you.
Are we looking for a motion, Mr. Chair, or any other comments? I don't know.
Pardon me, I was muted again. I apologize. Yes,
Oh.
yes, we are ready for a motion if anyone has one.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to bring forward a motion for approval on this application. It is just constructing or enclosing in part of the porch, I believe. So I don't believe there are any impact. There'd be any impact on neighboring adjacent neighbors. So my motion would be for approval of the application, and there would be no conditions for that.
Thank you. seconded by Ms. Hayes. So motion forward and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Vote is unanimous to approve the motion and carry, or approve the application. Thank you. Panel goes to number 32, which is the last item on this segment, the 2 p.m. segment. This is for number 12, Muriel Avenue. And on this application, we just have before us the applicant's submitted materials. I'll go to the agent and ask the agent to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Barry Goldman. I'm the architect on this project and the agent for this application. I believe the project is minor and meets the 4 tests. I'm happy to make a presentation if you like. Otherwise, I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Panel, are there any questions for Mr. Goldman?
Chair, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Goldman, what's the existing FSI on the property? I couldn't see it.
The existing FSI is 1.11. We are proposing to add 25.4 square meters to the existing, entirely on the existing flat roof at the rear of the partial 3rd story.
Thank you.
Mr. Goldman, my question for you is whether the party at number 14, Muriel, has been connected or contacted, and whether they are in agreement with the scope of the work.
Mr. Chair, I've urged my client to speak to all of the neighbors, and they have assured me that they have. That's really the best answer I can give you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Further questions of the applicant panel? No? Who would like to go forward with the motion, please? Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I, in my view, feel this squarely meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. We just heard from the agent that current FSI is 1.11. Adding a very small amount over the existing footprint, I don't see there being any impact on the attached or adjacent neighbors, and in fact, no one has opposed the application, so, or written in any event. So my motion would be for approval of the application, no conditions.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Byatt. There is a motion to approve, now seconded. Panel members, all those in favor, show of hands, and it is a unanimous vote. In favor of the motion, the application is approved. So, I think what we'll do at this stage is to take just a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back with the 3:30 segment. It'll be 4:15, but we'll just keep this to 10 minutes tight, and see you all after the recess at 4:15. Thank you. We have 3 back? No, we have just 2 back. Okay, well, wait till we have 3 back. Okay, panel resumes now, back from recess. And we resume with item number 33, which is 72 Queensdale Avenue. On this application, the materials before the panel are those submitted by the applicant, plus a previous Committee of Adjustment decision from 2019. And at this point, I'll ask the agent to join us by stating your name, please.
Hi, Mr. Brander, you are unmuted. Mr. Brander, if you have a microphone not plugged in, I suggest plugging it in or unmuting your microphone or increasing your microphone's volume. Through you, Mr. Chair, I can try giving Mr. Brander a call.
Go ahead, please. We'll just wait for a moment while we try to get contact with the agent on number 33.
Good afternoon, committee members. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. Please state your name.
I could hear you, and I saw unmute on my screen, but obviously you couldn't hear me. Sorry. My name is Adam Brander. My address is 49 Bolton Avenue, Toronto. I am the agent, the architect for the application at 72 Queensdale Avenue.
Thanks very much, Mr. Brander. Okay, panel members. On this application, would you like a presentation? Do you have questions for the agent? No? Then we can take the application into committee for a motion, please. Who'd like to go with a motion?
Before a motion, Mr. Chair, I guess I do have a question. So I don't know if the agent can answer it or if this
Go
is
ahead.
something that would go better to the Secretary Treasurer. But if this were to be approved, I noticed the previous decision is tied to plans, which includes floor plans. How will that affect that decision? If it does get approved and the unit gets, I mean, obviously the floor plans are going to change.
Madam Deputy Secretary
Impact the
Treasurer.
other decision? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read through it. Have they already constructed what, if the applicant can answer, have they already constructed what the previous decision was for?
Yeah, the previous decision has been constructed, and this is proposing a change to that.
Okay, so if they already received a permit, they would have received sign off. So then this would be a new decision to build on top of that.
So if, Okay, I don't remember or know why. I apparently sat on the other one. I don't know why it was all tied to all the plans. You know, if there is balconies or anyway, that's fine. That's fine. So it's not going to cause a problem if this gets approved in terms of the other decisions and the floor plans, because you're saying because a building permit has likely been issued and signed off, that it's not going to be a problem for them to proceed. Is that correct?
Yes, it looks like they're under inspection right now, so they've complied with that condition. And
Okay.
this would be a new decision, which they're seeking approval for.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, I don't remember why we tied it to the plans last time, so, okay.
Chair, I have one question of the applicant. Do you have any other examples in the neighborhood where there are 2 secondary units in a home?
So you, Chair,
Go ahead.
Yeah, we've, numerous, more than one secondary unit is common in this area. For our research on this project, we looked at the variances that were applicable, and we found similar variances in that there was one parking deficiency, which is often related to an additional unit, but we didn't actually look at direct examples of multi-unit conversions in the area, but just through our own body of work, we're very familiar with similar type projects in the area.
Thank you.
I have another question, actually, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
It just relates to parking. Is there, I guess I assume there's parking on the street. Is there street parking, permit parking available?
Yeah, it is a district where permit parking exists.
Thank you.
I've looked at the old plans. There doesn't seem anything that jumps out at me that it's a pretty rectangular building, so I don't know why they were tied to plans before.
So I thought the same thing. So anyway, okay. I wasn't sure why they were tied last time either.
Okay, panel. Is anyone ready to move forward with a motion? Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that what's being proposed is appropriate. It will add another unit of housing that is needed in the area. I don't think the variances are out of line, and I would move to approve the application
Thank you.
with no conditions.
Thank you. Seconded by Ms. Valentini. So moved and seconded to approve, no conditions. Those in favor, show of hands. And that vote is unanimous to carry the motion and approve the application. Panel moves along to number 34, 70 Emerson Ave. On 70 Emerson Avenue, we are dealing with applicant materials. There's a cover letter from the applicant. There is a previous Committee of Adjustment decision dating to 2020, which affects this property. And there are presentation materials from the applicant. In support, we have a 20-signature petition signed by occupants of many addresses on Emerson Avenue and St. Clarence Avenue. And there is no correspondence received in opposition. So, I'll ask the applicant to, or the owner please, to join us by stating your name. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll ask the agent, yes, the agent to join us. Daniel Hall, by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Daniel Hall. I'm an architect with the Architect Builders Collaborative, Inc., and we are the agents on behalf of the owners.
Thank you very much. Panel members, would you like a presentation? Do you have questions for the agent?
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. This relates to how this has changed in terms of the previous application. I mean, I clearly see from the previous application, the garage and the variances relating to the garage have been removed. There's no longer a garage now, but I believe the FSI is staying the same. But I think you said that the project is not as large. Can you just, I mean, the form of it might be different. I don't have the benefit of all the other materials before me, but can you just speak to that, please?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I was not involved in the project at the previous application, so what I know I've learned from the owners, but one of the main differences was they proposed a full 2-story front addition where the existing front porch is. We are proposing simply replacing the porch with a new structure of exactly the same size, same proximity to the street, and enclosing it. So effectively it's an enclosed porch, although to be built new. As you noted, we removed the garage, and more importantly, they addressed a lot of the neighbors' concerns, and I understand from the owners that they were not aware of the 1-week provision to submit materials. They were very early in the days of virtual hearings, and they came with withdrawn objections from the neighbors that were not allowed to be presented to committee, and I don't think they understood that a deferral might have been their better course. Instead, they engaged me. They'd considered an appeal to TLAB. I advised them against it. We redesigned with them to bring it much more in line. We removed setback variances, and the garage, the FSI is exactly the same. You are correct, although it's masked very slightly differently on the property, and no change to the streetscape. I would draw your attention to the, we submitted a lot of material because they were, they felt denied last time of something they thought was actually a fairly reasonable proposal. So we've really covered off our bases. If you forgive us for the abundance of material, including their signatures in support. But you'll see from our supporting document, we've pages number 31, 32, there are images of the house as it looks today and as it will look. And you can see they've done a lot to try to respect the streetscape, and I think that was one of the concerns in the previous application.
I found your materials, actually, the extensive materials, to be very helpful. So I think that package is very well put together in my view. And I did not actually overlook the fact that there was before a front 2-story addition. So that often does create probably concern in the neighborhood. Just one other quick clarification. Just trying to find the variance. From what I understand, what I've read, what you've told me, what you've said, in terms of the front addition, the request for the front yard setback, it's basically going to be the same as the existing front porch. That's correct, right? I know you're enclosing it and maybe building it new, but in terms of the setback to the current front porch, it's not changing. Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, the current front porch, I believe, is 2.13 meters from the lot line. We're proposing 2.15, but essentially the same.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions, panel? In that case, let's, Mr. Byatt.
Hi, your microphone is unmuted again, or muted again.
Sorry. Word of the year. In light of the fact that my colleagues don't have any other questions, I'd like to bring forward a motion of accepting this application and approving it as is.
Thank you. Does that have a second? It does. Ms. Hayes seconds. Moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor? Show of hands, please. And that motion is carried. The application is approved. Thank you. And we are now dealing with the next item, number 3568 Howland Ave. On 68 Howland, there are applicant materials. There's a cover letter from the agent. There is a decision by this committee, or by the Committee of Adjustment from 2020, which affected the property. And there is a form letter, or there are 10 form letters in support. These from owners or occupants 58, 60, 66, 69, 70, 71, 77, 79, 81, and 83 Howland Avenue. And we have the owners registered to speak. Both Laurie Sterling and Keith McKinnon. Will ask them to join us now by stating one or both names, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the committee members. My name is Laurie Sterling, and I'm here with my spouse, Keith McKinnon.
Good afternoon. Okay. Panel members. On 68 Howland, would you like to have a presentation? Do you have questions for the owners? Okay, I have a question for you owners. As I understand it, the application was refused November of last year. And I wonder if you could tell me how the application you're bringing forward now differs from that submitted and voted on last November, please.
Yes, I'd be pleased to do that. Thank you very much. The application last November, admittedly to our surprise, was objected to by 70 Howland, which is the other half of the semi-detached home that we currently live in. We are at 68 Howland. The objection was that it's a one-story addition, but it went all the way to the property line with the semi-detached at 70, and it had a higher ceiling, in part to accommodate a green roof, but also it was a higher ceiling generally. So the committee had no concerns about the length at all. It was simply about the width and height and the proximity to the neighbor. So after we received the committee's decision, we went back to work with 70 Howland, and jointly we came up with this proposal, which largely mirrors what they already have. And they have subsequently written a letter of support for what is essentially a smaller addition. And in particular, the house is now set back from the joint property line by 1 foot 9 inches, which is the same as theirs. Actually, when you include their overhang, it's actually a greater setback. And the height has been reduced by 2 feet 6 inches. In our submission, in the submission that I wrote, the report, you will see at page 3 that when you look at the back shot of the house, the two houses together, it now looks pretty similar in terms of the height. We're I think a couple of inches, few inches higher, but not much at all. But the house otherwise retains the character of the house in red brick and the neighborhood.
Thank you very much. So I do see the letter of support here from number 70 from Rachel Lowe.
We have tried to, they were the only ones that were objecting previously and appeared. You know, I think they're pretty happy with what's proposed now.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Panel, further questions for the applicant? Would anyone care to go forward with the motion? Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. Having reviewed the applications and like to you know, applaud the efforts of the applicant to address the initial concerns of the neighbor and come up with a proposal that has now come back with no objections and in fact support. I'm not concerned with the depth variance being requested. The existing depth is 19.04. I think what's being requested is indeed minor, and I would move a motion to support the application with no conditions.
Thank you. Second to that. There is a second. Mr. Byatt seconds. So moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor? Show of hands, please. The motion is carried. The application is approved. Thank you. With that, panel moves along to number 36. 37 Helena Avenue. We're looking at the applicant's materials. Pardon me. Yep, we are on 36. 37 Helena. There is correspondence in support from 33 Helena, 42 Alcina, and 41 Helena. And this is a this is an application which involves just one request for a minor variance. And I shall ask the agent to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This is Max Gopal. I'm the owner at 37 Helena, and I currently live there with my wife and our 9-month-old daughter, Isabella.
Good afternoon. Very good.
Good afternoon.
Okay. I'm going to check, Mr. Capel, if panel members have questions for you, or whether they might like a presentation. Panel members?
Chair, I just have one question.
Go ahead, please.
If the applicant has any examples of FSIs in the neighborhood of what they are requesting?
Of course, I've got a number of different comps for you. There's 87 Helena, which is 0.89 FSI. There's 94 Helena, which is 0.86. And there's 96 Helena, which is 0.85.
Thank you. Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll look to the panel, please, for a motion. Ms. Valentini.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you know, in looking at this one, in terms of the plans, it looks like a fairly large addition. I did note that the FSI currently is under the you know, maximum permitted under the zoning bylaw. But I also did note that in looking at neighboring properties, the property at 33 looks like it will go back, or goes back as, the proposal will go back similar in terms of depth of that property. And I did note it's a 3-story at number 33. Whether it's 3 stories all the way back, I don't know. But the fact, and the other question I had that Ms. Hayes brought up was the FSI. So it sounds like there are other FSIs on the street, although not, you know, in the directly beside, that have larger FSIs. So on that basis, the fact that that's the only variance that's being requested, and we've got support from, you know, the adjacent neighbor, I am in support of the application. And I don't know, I can bring a motion, or my colleagues may have other comments, but I'm in support of the application. Okay, I'm going to bring a motion forward,
Please.
then approval of the application, and in this case, there will be no conditions.
Thank you. That is seconded by Mr. Byatt. It is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And it is carried by unanimous vote to approve the motion and approve the application. Thank you. And with that, item number 37 comes up, 306 Kingswood. On 306 Kingswood, we have the application materials. We have correspondence from the agent, and we have presentation materials from the agent. And there is a commenting report from community planning. So I shall ask the agent now to join us by stating your name, please.
Good afternoon, Jeffrey Moot, Principal Moot Architect, agent on behalf of the owners of 306 Kingswood Road.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Okay. Panel on 306 Kingswood. Sorry. Anyone have questions?
Sure, I just have a question of clarification, please, just what we're dealing with. Just was noting the correspondence by email on June the 25th, it indicating that they've removed the 3rd floor addition from the scope of work. I just want to confirm that because the purpose in the agenda speaks to 3rd stories.
Could you respond to that, applicant?
And does it change the variances being requested, if that's the case?
The variances are accurate and up to date. At one point, much earlier on in the process, going back a few months, a 3rd floor rear addition was being proposed for this file. However, that had been removed a few months back. The drawing package is up to date and reflects just the existing rear deck. You'll see as we're flipping through the plans. Can you scroll back?
So the purpose of the application on the notice needs to have an amendment then to remove that 3rd story addition. Would that be accurate?
No, the drawings already reflect that change. They were uploaded back in March.
No, I'm not talking about the drawings. I'm talking about the purpose of the application on the notice that was issued.
The purpose of, yes, that is accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm confused then, so.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I'm left confused. The purpose of the application reads to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing rear 1-story addition, a 3rd story addition, and a front porch enclosure. I'm sorry, I thought you were saying.
The 3rd story addition should be deleted from the purpose.
It should be deleted.
From the purpose.
From the purpose, yes. Is that Applicant, are you in agreement with that?
Absolutely, that is accurate.
So just those
Thank
four.
you,
Just those four words then should be deleted, a third-story addition. That should come out, and that is with the applicant's agreement. Is that correct, applicant?
That is correct.
Thank you. That was important. Any further questions for the applicant?
I guess I have a question, Mr. Moot. You've probably seen the planning conditions. Do you have any issues with those? In terms of privacy screening and building it substantially in accordance with the plans for the front addition?
We are okay to accept the staff recommendation number one. Absolutely, our intention is to construct per the latest drawing set. Item number two, and I hope this doesn't cause too much confusion. The privacy screen, it referenced in item number two. It reads a rear second story platform. There is no rear second story platform currently. There is an existing, and it's been in existence for decades, third floor platform, but there are no changes being proposed or variances attached to that. And that may have been caught up in the removal of the third floor addition because that's where it was located previously. I hope that is clear. My preference, if we could happily accept number one, and I just don't believe at this stage that item number two is relevant to this proposal. However, a second story platform will not be part of any future building permit application. So I suppose the question is, are we able to accept number one? Would be our preference, and remove number two.
Okay, I'm glad I asked because now that I look at the plans again, refresh my memory, I see the second story does exist, and you're just kind of widening the first story out. Is that right? Like you're filling out the addition of the rear? Yeah.
Absolutely. So the front porch enclosure is, existing footprint, existing,
yes, of course.
but new new enclosure. And at the rear, we're squaring off the corners, and the existing rear main wall sort of location, so the building length is to remain. So it's really squaring off the corners at the back on the main floor.
So that third story deck, which is currently in existence, is not being changed or altered in any way?
That is correct.
Okay, so in my view, I don't think the second recommendation on the planning in terms of conditions makes sense, since you're right, there's not a second story platform, but I don't know how my colleagues feel, but thank you.
Well, the panel does have the discretion to recommend or to approve variance, or the first staff recommendation and not include the second staff recommendation if it so chooses. Most important, thank you again for that clarification. Any further questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, you're looking for a motion, or?
I'm looking for a motion, please.
Oh, I'm happy to start the conversation on this one.
Please.
I'm in favor of the application as amended, so the removal of the third story since third floor addition since it's not being proposed. And I would like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application. I think this is minor in nature. They're simply enclosing the existing front porch and squaring off the first story addition at the back. And I would make it subject to condition number one set out in the planning department memo. I agree with the applicant that condition number two does not make sense since there's not a second floor deck, and the third floor deck has been in existence, so I don't see there to be an issue. So it would be subject to condition number one in the planning memo only.
Thank you very much. Good motion there. Are you seconding, Ms. Hayes? Or do you have a question? No, Ms. Hayes, I believe, is seconding. Ms. Hayes, do you wish to second that motion?
Yes, I second it.
Okay. So the motion is seconded by Ms. Hayes. And there is a motion now before the panel, seconded, with those important clarifications. And we can go to a vote now. All those in favor of the motion, show of hands. The motion is carried by unanimous vote, and the application is approved. Thank you very much. With that, we come to application number 38, 24 Dury Street. And I'll just check with the moderator now on this one. Moderator, can you give me an indication now? I'm showing 6 registered speakers speaking to this, 3 of them at least in opposition. I'm showing 6 speakers. Can you tell me how many you have online?
Mr. Chair, I have all of them except for Melissa Lee. She's there, but her microphone isn't connected, so I will probably end up calling her.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay then. So let's go back now and then to the agent and ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Hi, Mr. Chairman and members of committee. Thank you for hearing us today. My name is Sude. I'm the architect on behalf of the client, the owner of 24 Dury Street today.
Good afternoon to you. You will have 5 minutes to make your presentation to the panel. And
okay.
Chair, may I interrupt? May I interrupt just for 1 second?
Go ahead. Who is that? Go ahead.
It's Joanne. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wondered before the applicant did their full presentation, if they could clarify the variances that they're now requesting, because noting in the application material, there's a number of variances that they have indicated that they wish to revise. And I think if we could be clear on those before we go to the presentation, I would find that helpful.
Absolutely, that's correct. After talking to the neighbors, we tried to address their comments and their questions. So what we did, we actually revised the height from 10.17 to 9.72 meters.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment. Just so we do this with the utmost of clarity, I'm going to give some instructions now to the agent. If we're going to go, this is a good exercise, we need to do it. Let's go through the variances as we are dealing with them. And there are 6 of them. If you could refer to them, please, by number first. And then all you've got to say at this stage is the change. So in the case of number 1, you simply say that the height will now be such and such. Just give us the end result. Then we'll come back to you, and you can make your presentation with respect to the detail and the reasoning behind the thoughts. So let's just get, so we're down to very concise 6.
Okay.
Very good. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So number 1 is the height. It's going from 10.17 to 9.72 meters. Number 2, 0.9 is changing to 0.84 for FSI. We're getting rid of number 3, which is our front yard setback. Number 4, we're leaving it on. Front yard setback, front yard parking, we're leaving it on. Number 5, it's changing from 9.63 to 9.28. And number 5, old bylaw height is changing from 9.9 to 9.46.
Thank you very much. Perfect.
And the revised notice is also there.
I beg your pardon.
Could you please tell us what the floor space index is in square meters? So
yes.
0.84.
0.8. That's 222.8 square meters.
228.
222 and 87 square meters.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, that's good. Let's then, we'll start
More
the.
question, if I might, just in terms of that, did you remove the third-story rooftop terrace?
Yes. After talking to the neighbors, they objected to the second story and the third story balconies, so we removed them both. Also, we revised the ground floor slightly to please number 26 story.
Okay, just a sec, just a sec,
right.
okay. So now we can get into the whys and the wherefores. We now have down this concise detail, that's good. Let's go ahead now, we're gonna start the clock now, and we'll start the clock now when you have 5 minutes.
It goes to the purpose of the application. It says it's a third-story rooftop terrace, so I'm just wondering if that needs to be amended. That's the only reason I asked the question at this point.
Let's get that down too if it does, okay. The purpose of the application reads now as to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a two-story addition over the existing front and rear two-story addition and a third-story rear rooftop terrace.
So there's no rooftop terrace anymore.
There is no rooftop terrace any longer?
Any longer, that's right. Even though the zoning actually allows that, but because the neighbors objected to that, we decided to remove it. Again, we basically had conversations with them, and we were trying to work with the neighbors to, keep everybody happy. And if that bothered them in terms of privacy, we got rid of it.
Okay, just a second then. So back to the exercise of getting clarity here. Staff, have you captured that? We're going to remove that final phrase, and a third-story rear rooftop terrace. That is at the applicant's request. We're taking that out. Okay, are there any more considerations of this type in terms of clarity of wording and detail? Hearing none, we can now go to the applicant. We're going to start the clock now, and you can make your presentation to the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you can please go to page 1. I would appreciate it, all the way up. Okay, so we're basically, okay, that's it, perfect. We're basically thinking that we're not setting any new precedents in this area. Number 15 Dury was approved with FSI of 1.16, height of 10.13, main wall height of 10.13, and a front yard parking pad. This house is just within 60 meters away from us, and it's under construction now. Next page, 44 Morningside is with FSI of 1.05 and height of 9.8 meter, exterior main wall height of 9.42. And again, this house is also about 110 meters away us, been approved before. And next page again, please. Number 245 Windermere Avenue. It's a 3-story addition. If you can please go to page 3. Sorry, if you can please, yes, thank you. With FSI of being approved for 0.82, height of 9.71, exterior main wall height of 9.31. And again, the list goes on. I can go through it. All I'm trying to say is that we're not really setting any new precedents. Number 7 Dury, very close to us with the FSI of 1.14. They also have a front yard parking pad, asking for the same variance as us, being built and approved. Obviously, number 13 Dury, within 70 meters of our site. It's a 3-story building, FSI of 1.258, height of 10.60. This is a good example, and the house beside it actually also 15 Dury. What I tried to do is to make the house look like a 2-story house with a pitch roof that kind of goes in with the characteristics of the neighborhood a little bit better. Have brick on the outside, a pitch roof, versus doing a 3-story with a 3-story like 13 Dury or 15 Dury, which we did not want to do. Number 94 Lavinia, I don't have a picture of that one, but FSI is approved for 0.81 and height is approved for 9.81. And old bylaw height is 10.15. Number 16 Waller Avenue. If you can please scroll down to page 7. With a height of FSI of 0.908, height of 10.01 meter. Next one, please, number 34 Dury. FSI of 1.14 and main wall height of 8.45. If you can please scroll down. And the list goes down to number 15 Beresford, number 60 Beresford Avenue. If you can scroll down, thank you. And then page 11, I'm basically showing on image number 1 is if we comply to our height at 9 meter. Image 2 is what we're proposing now. And then the wall, the third floor wall is about 5.1 meter behind the main front wall of the house. So image number 3, you're standing outside on Dury Street. This really looks like a 2-story house. The third floor of it is only happening at a section of this house. Image number 5 is rear elevation, and again, the wall that's been hatched, it's 4.9 meter behind the rear ground and second floor walls. Image number 4 is a section, sorry, it's an elevation down below. Yes, there I'm showing the height of main wall. The height of main wall is measured from established grade to underside of the roof where you have a slope roof. So for the most part of the house, we're at 6.83 meters. Only for the portion of the 3-story is where the main wall height is exceeding our limit, and we're at 9.27. So I did a quick calculation. There's about 26% of total perimeter of the house has 9.28 meter wall height. The rest, which is 74%, are at 6.84 main wall height.
Agent, I must ask you now to make your final comment, please.
Sure. The next slide is showing all the, not all of them, but precedents for the front yard parking pads. There are a lot of houses on Dury Street with front yard parking pads. This is a very difficult street to park on. Across from our house, there's no parking sign on one side of the street. On the other side of the street, there is a limit and there is a permit needed. Also, because the lots are so close to each other, and a lot of them have parking pads or they have curb cuts, it's impossible to park in front of neighbors' houses.
Agent, your time is now up.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this stage, let me catch up on something I should have done earlier in this particular application and let you know the materials which the panel is working with. We do have materials submitted by the applicant with a covering letter from the owner, an arborist report, and presentation materials from the agent. There's email correspondence from Transportation Services and Community Planning, and there is written correspondence in opposition from 49 Lavinia, 26 Dury, 51 Lavinia, from 26 Dury once again, from 18 Dury, from 5 Dury, from the Swansea Area Ratepayers Association and the Swansea Area Ratepayers Group, from 22 Dury, and from 61 Lavinia. And I noticed that a number of the persons who wrote that correspondence are actually listed in our group of registered speakers standing by to speak now. So very good. We'll now go to the first on that list, moderator. And okay, so I shall ask in that case, I'll ask Mara Raguz to join us by stating your name.
Mara Ragu, 61 Lavinia Avenue.
Mara, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Now, you have 5 minutes to address the panel. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I wanted to address the drawings that they provided June 30th regarding the precedents. He stated that he didn't think this would impact me. If anything, it would impact them. I found this kind of, I don't know how to say it without insulting someone, so I'm not, but I see the bungalow. My house is an original bungalow they call the cottage. I see that house from my kitchen, from my back room, but my sitting area's in the back. They clear cut 20 trees. They illegally tried to remove a big tree. We stopped it. They got a permit. They removed it. Now I see, because Swansea, it was full of greenery and hills and valleys, I see not the trees anymore. I see rows and rows of houses and doors and windows. And they said, well, we don't know what our problem is because, you know, there's other houses next door. Well, they have small windows. 26 Lavinda has 2 small windows in the second story, a door on the first floor. The house, I think it's 22. They're forested. I don't see anything because of the hill. Now they're putting in a 3-story with these huge windows looking at me with balconies. They said they were going to remove the balcony. I think really it's a small lot, and you know, with a hill going by, it's really, for me, it's huge. I know these are minor variances to them. To me, these are huge variances. And you know, from getting complete shade, I have burning light from like 5:30ish, 6 o'clock in the morning in the house. It's just really changed everything for me. And you know, he thinks it doesn't affect my privacy. I'm 40 years working in a hospital. That's my Shangri-La in the back, and really it's gone. And I feel a little insulted when he thinks it's not affecting me. And then I'm worried about the 3rd floor roof that's flat, that it will be turned into a porch, a balcony at some time, so I would like that redone. I think the house is period just too big for the lot size. I mean, I sit basically on a very similar lot. I do think the home's too big. I think I'm trying to think of what else I have to say here. I didn't appreciate when the builder said to me that he's increasing, he's doing me a favor by increasing my property value. I told him that he took away my privacy, my taxes will go up, and I feel like I'm pushed out of the neighborhood that I really would like to retire in. You know, we have to try to keep the greenery, somehow work with the landscape. This originally was a ravine. They can say it's not a ravine, but it was. We had valleys and hills and greenery. So at one point it was. Now they're saying it's not. Okay, it's not, but let's work together. Let's, you know, how do we keep this greenery, the city, you know, not everything excessive is the best. Like, I think I wrote less is more. Why do we need a 3-story for a family home? I don't understand. You know, this home was, these areas were cottage homes, and they turned into 2-story, now 3-story. I think everything is just going excessive, in my opinion. And I really feel like my privacy is just completely gone. I think I've gotten it all. I really am not happy about the size of a lot of these things, and I would like the window replaced with a window that you definitely cannot come out, so future it doesn't turn into a balcony.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry if I feel a little frustrated. I've been waiting since 2 o'clock, so I'm a little tired.
We do understand. We do understand.
And I appreciate everyone's time.
Well, the panel's glad to hear from you. The panel's been going since 9:30 this morning, just so you know. And
my heart goes out to you because it's been difficult for 3 hours, so I don't know how you do it.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions for the speaker? Thank you, speaker. We'll move on to the next speaker. And what I'll say to all the speakers that are standing by is you can really help the panel to understand. We're trying to understand all the points of view here. Help us by explaining the impact of what you're what you interpret the application to mean, the impact on your enjoyment of your property, your enjoyment of the street. Okay then. Let's go on to the next registered speaker and ask her to join us by stating your name.
Hi, the speaker is unmuted on our end. If they can unmute themselves on their end, turn up their microphone volume.
Who is the speaker? Sorry.
Hi, is this Liz Nadeau?
Yes, this is Liz. Hi, thank you, and thank you for hearing us today. My concerns were very, very significant with the first set of drawings. I submitted detailed pictures from 26 Drury that show the issues with the somewhat ravine lot, the grandfathered fence, the erosion that's already taking place from the trees coming down. Since my original submission, the architect and the owner did work with the neighbors. I definitely acknowledge that. So my major concern right now is that it becomes very clear in what's approved by the committee, if there is an approval today, that they state that it has to be the June 25th drawings and those variances as compared to the earlier drawings, which would have had a dramatic effect on the erosion of our property, the drainage, and certainly the privacy, because there's no trees left between 26 and 24 juries. So I would like to see the committee confirm that in whatever form is appropriate for the committee to do so. My second point is, and this is an understanding for me, they have confirmed that they will keep the grandfathered fence in place and they will match the retaining walls so that we don't have erosion on our property. I don't know whether that's something the Committee of Adjustment deals with or whether there's a normal group. My third concern is there's only 32 inches between our property and where the addition is taking place, and I'm concerned about any additional cracks or foundation. So again, I don't know whether it's a purview of the Committee of Adjustment or the Construction Committee, but if there's anything that could be added in so that if there is damage to our property, we have quick resolution on that. So those are my concerns. Other than that, we support the parking pad. I do believe that there is no parking available often on Dury Street. To take another car or two off the street is acceptable to us at 26 Dury. Thank you. Those are my comments.
So thank you very much. Now, just for your information, so I'm just, you are okay with the parking pad? Some of the other issues that you did refer to, and you were hinting at this, yes, they are outside of the purview of the committee. The committee is just looking at these six elements. Construction issues, for example, one would take to the construction department, but
okay.
They're very good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. But will the Committee of Adjustment confirm with clarity that it is the June 25th drawings and that they cannot go back to earlier drawings?
That's important too. Thanks very much. I'm going to ask staff to check on that as we proceed here with the next speaker.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours. Very good. We proceed now to the next registered speaker and ask that speaker to join us. State your name, please.
Hi, Cheryl. You are unmuted on our end. Again, if you can.
Oh, hi. Hi there. This is Cheryl, and I live at 59 Lavinia Avenue, and both myself and my husband are going to be speaking this afternoon. So the main concern I have is on the rooftop terrace that they say that they've taken away. When I look at the revised plans, there seems to be that flat roof that Mara spoke about, which I do have concerns about in terms of the privacy, and they did take down all the trees. So I do think that's going to be very impactful. There is a lot of discussion around talking to neighbors. We have had no correspondences or discussions with the property builders, so this is all sort of new to us. And also I feel like there has been a lot of changes made to the plans, which again are new from the original gathering here for the discussions today. So a lot of changes have been happening very quickly. Thanks.
Thank you. Is your husband speaking too?
Yeah, Bill's talking.
No, not separate.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Your husband is listed as a registered speaker. He can just join us by stating his name, please.
Hi, Cheryl. If Patrick Mullen is going to speak as well, please confirm. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Sorry, hi. I was on a separate line, waiting my turn there.
Go ahead.
So yeah, it's Patrick Mullen from 59 Lavinia Avenue as well. And we are behind and one to the south of 24 Dury. So the concern that I wanted to raise today is about the proposed variance in FSI, and see all the comparables that the agent has brought and demonstrated. But I would suggest that this is not a comparable in this particular site because of the difference in the lot. It's a very unusual lot. It's not flat. In order to accomplish the proposed FSI, the applicant would have to cut very deeply into the steep slope that's on the west side of the lot behind ours, and to the south side of the property, which is also behind us, which would create an L-shaped retaining wall. I understand that this is a construction issue and not necessarily for this committee, but the variance in FSI is going to have an impact on this, and I wanted to mention it. So the landform here is it's really kind of unusual. It's similar to what you'd find in High Park. It's tablelands and ravine, very, very, very steep drop-offs. Because I'm that kind of person, I looked at a topographical map when we bought the house, and there's a 10-meter drop from the back of our house to the houses below, with the bulk of that drop happening on the Dury side. It's a very unstable slope, as others have mentioned. There's been a lot of erosion. It's mostly beach sand from the old shore of the lake. So the variance in FSI is going to create the need for retaining walls, an L-shaped retaining wall, which is a bit of an engineering feat, and subsidence of our property and our neighbors' properties is going to be a very big concern of ours. Understanding again that this is a construction issue and it's not necessarily for this committee, we haven't seen any evaluation, any engineering evaluation of how a retaining wall can be installed, or any assessment of short and long-term impacts of those earthworks, either on us or to any of our neighbors. So wanted to register concern about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel questions for these couple of speakers? Anything? We move then to the next registered speaker standing by and ask to join us. State your name, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sarah Doucette. I live at 18 Dury. So I am 3 houses south of this property. I did write a letter and I did add photographs so you can understand what we are talking about, or what I'm talking about. So the proponent did come and knock on my door, and I believe it was the Tuesday before they had to get their final designs to committee, which was the Friday. And as I had met with some of my neighbors a few days before that, I was able to give them some input on the concerns that some of the neighbors had. Personally, you will see in my letter, I did take a photograph looking north from my back garden. You will see number 22 is the one which has some trees in front of it and a lot of vines on the property. And just to that left, you will see the antenna and a fir tree. The fir tree is being removed, and originally the addition was going to come almost that far west. The new design, I understand, will come more in line, will come more in line with the antenna tower. So for that, I am truly grateful. I also commented that their second floor balcony would allow people to look straight into my back garden. This photograph, as the other photograph as you just shown, also shows how it has been clear cut. And you can see from both photographs that our hillsides are covered in trees. We like our privacy, we love the environment, the city's trying to build the tree canopy, we're here to help, and we have a lot of wildlife. So we do appreciate that the proponent coming to us so soon, so late in the game, I guess would be, they did do a lot of changes as to what we asked. We asked for a reduction in FSI, in height. I do support the parking pad. I do agree there's already a curb cut there. Please let's not get more cars on our street. It gets harder to park every day, particularly now we are zoned parking rather than street-specific permit parking. So in general, they have made some efforts. I think one of the issues was because this was such a late change, some of the neighbors were not given the new designs. They had written their letters in advance. They were not able to see the designs because the city does not send out new designs. It is up to the community to come to the website to find these designs, and not everyone knows to do that. So I am in support of this property. Yes, a bit of less height would be lovely. I do appreciate that they have removed the 2 balconies. I do agree that the flat roof could be seen that in future someone could make it into a balcony, into a terrace. So if there's some design they can do, as you heard from Mara, to the windows, and to maybe even shrink that flat roof a bit more so that it is more of a slope, so that the neighbors on Lavinia and on 24, 22 and 26 Drury don't have to wonder if there's ever going to be a balcony there. I also support what Liz was mentioning because we've had various renditions and changes. I would like to make sure, please, as a condition, that you do tie the construction in accordance with the most recent design, the most recent plans which you received on July 25th. I would just like to touch very quickly on the arborist report. A little offended by it, saying that trees will not thrive on our reverse ravines. Well, let me tell you, they do thrive. I have black locust, I have maple, I have elm, I have a variety of trees. They grow very nicely and very well, and if you do bring an arborist in and maintain them, you won't have to worry about their decline and eventual death and the astronomical cost of removing them. So I do take I think that's a bit insulting to us, and I do ask the proponent to please, I know they have to plant 3 trees because they removed the 1 large one, but they really have clear cut. They've got to consider a good planting plan which will provide some privacy for Lavinia and their immediate neighbors, and put some greenery back, because otherwise that hillside's going to end up in everyone else's gardens. With these torrential storms we're having nowadays, more frequently heavy rainstorms, this is sand, as you heard from another speaker. We are Swansea sand, High Park sand, and it does come down the hill unless you have vegetation to hold it in place. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being there since 9:30. I've only been listening in since 3 o'clock, and we appreciate you listening to us, and see what you think about this.
Just a moment, please. We have a question for you before you go.
Yes. I don't know if it's a specific question for this speaker, but I thought I would just throw this out there since I just realized people are making reference to these June 25th plans. We have the benefit of just one set of drawings. I don't have previous renditions, so I did note that they're dated June 24th, but they've been received by us the 25th. I can only make the assumption that the plans everybody is speaking about are the same plans before us. So they don't show balconies and the terrace, but everyone refers to them as the 25th plans, and they look like they're dated to me on the 24th. So it just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Those are the plans we are referring to. You are correct. The original ones were April 30th. Some of us neighbors got to see some other plans, They did a quick turnaround of doing some changes for us, and again, we appreciate that. So yes.
Just to note, they're dated the 24th. I want to make sure that we're, obviously looking at the same plans, because we have one set of plans in our package.
We are, and thank you for considering that. And also thank you for adjusting the proposed, what was it, the condition, when you took away the 3rd floor balcony from the proposed application. We appreciate you catching that one too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, okay then, we'll go on to the next speaker. Thank you. And next speaker can join us now by stating your name, please.
Oh. Hi, my name is Veronica Wynn, and I am the president of the Swansea Area Ratepayers Association. And the Swansea Ratepayers Association is an incorporated not-for-profit community advocacy association which has the interest of good planning and development on behalf of the Swansea community at heart. It is with this commitment in mind to the community that we bring our concerns regarding this application. I speak today to protect, on behalf of the community, to protect the integrity of the changes that were made in the June 24th, 25th plans. I find that there's a discrepancy between actually, and I'm glad you thank you for catching the 3rd floor terrace in the variance, but I also think that there's a discrepancy actually on the drawings. And if you look at I think it's A9 on the drawings. I don't know whether you can pull it up.
We'll pull it up here. Let's hang on a moment till we get to it. Just hang on for a second, please.
Thanks very much. I think it's A9. Yeah, that's the one. You see where it looks. Well, I know it's a ghost image of the front of the house, the roof at the front, but I also think that there's it could give the impression of like a walkout, because actually the windows, I think if you scroll down a bit, I think it has oh no, it's not that, but you go back up. Actually on that windows, it looks like the windows are like patio doors, and it doesn't look like they're actual windows. And so I think that's what's giving the community the impression that they are that they could be changed at a further date. So we would like that put as part of the condition that the roof would be withdrawn to ensure that it reflects, that the drawing reflects the fact that there is no terrace, and that they are regular windows rather than patio doors. Something, however you would like to say that, so that we can, because I would like to at the end of this presentation to be able to say that we would like this project to be built substantially in accordance with the drawings. But if the drawings reflect that they look like patio doors and that it looks like a terrace, then we don't want it to be that. I think that's where the fear from the community comes. I also have a concern with the actual assessment of the discrepancies in the drawings. If you look at the front part of the house, it's like there's two parts of the house. The front part is given the 6.9 measurement, which is under the 7 meters of a sidewall variance for measuring the height. But actually, the real measurement is the part behind it, and that building is at 9.28, which is the sidewall height. It's really 9.28, which is absolutely excessive. But anyway, and also there is a bit of confusion on my part, because we know as the Ratepayers Association that the measurement for under 569 is like you do the established grade, which goes from 0.01 on the other person's property, on the adjacent property, down to the edge of the property in the current property, and also to the highest point in the building, which would be not the front part, but the back part. So anyway, and I feel that discrepancy doesn't benefit the community. I think that because of that discrepancy and inaccuracy of the measurement, I think that the height could be reduced.
I must ask you to make your final comment now, please.
Okay. Also, the precedents are all over the map and are absolutely irrelevant and redundant. But anyway, but also the conclusion. Swansea Area Ratepayers objects to the proposed.
Your time is up now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just finish and just do the because I was interrupted there. I want a condition that it be.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
The
No.
project would be built in compliance with the drawings.
Your time is now up. And we move on to the next speaker, who we shall ask to join us by stating their name, please.
Hi, Melissa. You are unmuted on our end. If you can unmute your mic on your end or turn up your microphone volume so we can hear you. Melissa, we are not able to hear you. I can try to give you a call again.
Perhaps we can go to Scott Parsons, because I think they're from the same address.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, thank you, Chair and committee. Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you now. Is that Scott?
This is Scott. Yeah, so
Scott, tell us the impact of the actual proposal, the proposed variances that we're looking at. Tell us the impact that you're concerned about of those variances.
I would just echo the same comments as my neighbors in terms of the proposed variances. My main concern, and again, this is echoing some of the concerns of our neighbors, is the potential degradation of the slope in the backyard. We've got a properly engineered and extensive retaining wall to protect the slope of our backyard. I would just, in addition to planting proper vegetation, ask that 24 jury bring in a proper engineer to in addition to ensuring that the gradient will be sustained with vegetation, actually assess whether a properly engineered and designed retaining wall is needed to ensure that there's no further degradation to that slope.
Could you just state your address for the record, please?
63 Lavinia.
Thank you.
Those were my only comments. My main concerns are just the degradation of the slope at the rear of the property, and again, I echo the same comments that were made by our other neighbors.
Okay, Scott, any questions of Scott, panel members? Okay then, thank you, Scott. Moderator, I show Scott as the last of the registered speakers. So there being no further registered speakers, we'll go back now to the agent, who will have...
What about Melissa Lee?
Yes, we weren't able to get to Melissa, were we? Go ahead.
So.
Hi, Scott. If Melissa wants to speak, she can speak through your mic.
Okay, I will I will grab her in a moment, please.
Hi there. I was reviewing some of the documents, and the only concern I had was trying to understand the changes with respect to the patio, because I understand that the windows will still be long, but the flat roof will not be all the way to the ground, I guess, to the bottom of the window. So apologies, I haven't been, I was at another meeting, so I haven't been listening to the revisions, but can I understand why the windows are still so long? Is there an intent to have a roof that can possibly be transformed into something that could be walkable?
Melissa, what, the committee can't answer questions on behalf of the applicant, but we do want to know what the impact of the variances proposed would be on you. So if you have any thoughts in that direction, we'd certainly like to hear them, please.
Okay, so my thoughts are just concerning whether, with privacy, just because it's a higher level and there would be windows on that third floor looking towards my property.
Okay, Melissa?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. All right, with that, we shall return to the agent for her opportunity to rebut. She'll have 5 minutes. And the types of issues we've been hearing, actually the issues we've been hearing people address as I've listened relate in a large way to the rear yard and to the slope in the rear yard and to concern about degradation of that slope over time. Concern about the trees that were cut down there. So I'm going to, because that came up so often, I'm going to ask the applicant to speak to that. I also, there's concern, even though we know the rooftop terrace is gone, there was concern about the third floor rear bedroom and whether or not the windows there are providing for a Juliet style of a deck or whether they're just windows. So we'd ask for clarification on that. And go back now to the agent to rebut, please.
Okay, hi. I'm going to start from the third floor balcony, which is gone. So if you look at the rear elevation, I believe it was drawing A9.
Let's put it up.
Let's put it up, please. There we go. So the third floor windows, those two windows are fixed glass. It says FG on it. The other two on the either sides are operable windows. And this window does not come all the way down to the floor. It's about 1 foot away from the floor. So unless you jump out from it, you can't obviously get into this flat roof area. This flat roof area is only being used as a window well to be able to get enough light into this bedroom. It clearly says no access to roof or flat roof on the floor plan, and this is how we will apply for building permit, which says no access. This will not be balcony.
You have a section?
There is, I don't think there's a section in this set, but there is an elevation there's the side elevation. Yes. So that part of the roof, basically I'm using that roof skirt to wrap around the building to make it look nicer aesthetically, and keep the pitch roof at the back. Otherwise, we could easily do a flat roof all the way at the back of the house. But we want to keep this kind of, again, look like a two-story and wrap the roof around it. And again, we're basically just using that as a window well to get enough light into that master bedroom area. Not to mention, you know, the code asking for a certain amount of glass area for a bedroom. Can I move to the second issue, the trees?
Go ahead, please.
So I'm not an arborist, and I was not involved in retaining an arborist. The owner did that. He retained, hired an arborist. Basically, when he purchased the lot, the backyard was a big mess. And what he wants to do is basically he wanted to clean it up, make it look nice. There are a few images in our presentation. I believe that will be page 16. That shows the existing condition of the rear yard, and it shows what the owner has in mind to do in terms of the design. The images on the right hand side. Obviously, he's planning to plant trees. He's not going to want to look at dirt or retaining walls. Nobody likes that. It's his intent to make this backyard look beautiful, and we have looked at number 26 Dury. They have a really, really cute backyard, and we've been really looking into their backyard to sort of mimic the same sort of idea. And that's our intent. We're not planning to touch the existing retaining wall. It will stay. We will have to hire a grading engineer. Again, I'm not a grading engineer myself. I'm not a structural engineer, but we will hire structural engineer and grading engineer to design this at the best way possible. And we already told number 22 Dury and 26 Dury that they will be involved during the design process. They're well aware of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'll see if there's any questions for you from the panel.
Yep.
Ms. Valentini.
I just have a quick question. I just want to make sure if you could confirm the plans we have dated June 24th, the ones that the neighbors have been reviewing and find acceptable.
Correct. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, because there's people calling them the 25th plan, so I want to hear from both yourself and just that these are the plans everyone is on board with. Thank you.
Those are the plans, yes.
I have a question for you about the parking pad.
Yes.
And I noticed that among the speakers, there were two speakers who actually voiced support for your parking pad. Can you tell us about about your rationale for wanting that parking pad and the parking situation that you face on that street?
Absolutely. Can we please go to page 15 on the presentation? There is a site plan with colored parking pads. Page 15 on the presentation, please. Thank you. That's right. So the current owner of 24 Dury has kids. There is an existing parking pad. The orange one is an existing parking pad, and there's an existing curb cut. What we're trying to do is push the existing parking pad into our own property. So transportation was okay with it. They had no objection. Again, Dury is a difficult street to park on. And for safety reasons of this family with their kids, we'd like to hopefully keep it. And again, because transportation was okay with it, we thought we'd show it on the site plan. The neighbors are also okay with it. Again, Dury is a very difficult street to park on. And it will be, again, there is just an existing curb cut. We will do nice landscaping around it. I've already put some images that, you know, we can, obviously we want to make the front yard look nice. And so this is the plan, if that's okay with the committee.
Thank you. Okay, panel members, any further questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, at this point, let's take the application into committee for some discussion and moving toward Mr. Chang.
Yes, I'll just start, and I really appreciate the effort the applicant has spent changing the plans and minimizing the impact to the neighbor. And I understand that changing from a bungalow to even to just meeting the existing zoning would be a drastic change to many people. So that part I get it. But overall, I think the scale of the final design, particularly the roof and the way they handle the massing, is very appropriate. I don't find that being too massive. I find that it is in scale with the development in the area. So I will support the revised plan. And as usual, I think we should tie if we are going to approve it, I think we should tie the decision with the plans attached.
Thank you very much. Further thoughts, panel? We're now in committee. Mr. White.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to concur with my colleague. I think it is quite commendable that the architects have worked and the owners of the property have worked very closely to make the changes that, many of the changes that were of particular concern to neighbors. One of the interesting things is that some of the neighbors on Lavinia were concerned about privacy from the windows on the third floor, and yet they're at a higher elevation, and from their backyards they look down into the properties below on Dury. So some of the concerns that have been expressed, while I appreciate the concerns that they voiced, I think have been well addressed by the architects and the owner of the property. And I'm certain that and I'm confident, I should say, that the owner of the property will make sure that the slope behind them will be adequately addressed. It's not in their interest to leave it in the state that it's currently in.
Thank you.
So for that reason, I would support the application as well, without condition, except tied to the plans, the current plans.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
One of the things I just wanted to make an observation about, something the applicant indicated in their original submissions, is that they have agreed to not have the third-story balcony, but she indicated and pointed out that they could have one and there is no variance required for that. So I just really want to make people understand that although the third-story balcony is something that's contention, there was no variance before the committee to permit that, and we can tie it to plans, but whether or not, if we choose to approve it, but whether or not at some later date someone tries to do that, that would have to be an application dealt with at the time. But there was no variance related to the terrace on the third floor. So I just want everybody to be clear with respect to what is before us and what wasn't, and what is a concession that the applicant has said they're making. But I just had caught that submission by the applicant in the initial submissions, and I just wanted to make that bring that clarity. And if I'm incorrect with respect to that, I certainly stand to be corrected, but that's what I had heard.
Thank you.
On that note, and I was going to bring this up, or I don't know if there's a way to impose a condition that says there shall be no balcony on the third floor. I mean, maybe the Secretary Treasurer can speak to that. I don't think that's normally a condition we put on since they may be able to do it. But there is, on the plans, it says flat roof, no access. I'm just looking for the plan number.
So,
Like, for example, A5. So does that, I don't know if that prevents them from using it as a balcony, probably not, but I just noted that.
Some experience of you, the building department will have the zoning to check what we have agreed on, and then the building examiner will look at the roof construction, and if it is a roof that is for a terrace, it has to be designed with live load. And in that case, it will trigger that clause, and it will go back to zoning. So as long as the zoning examiner and the building examiner, which they always work hand in hand, so we imply, or if we state that in this decision that no patio, no terrace, no outdoor live load is allowed on that roof, and I believe the building department will take care of the rest for us.
So maybe we could ask the Secretary Treasurer, maybe, is that a condition? It's not something we typically impose, but can we impose that if it's permitted under the zoning bylaw?
The committee shouldn't be putting restrictions on something that is permitted under the bylaw. So if a balcony terrace or whatever it's called is permitted, depending on the size, they can't be restricted. You can tie them to these plans, but there's nothing to say that 5 or 10 years down the road, if they apply for something else, to put in something, if the bylaw permits it, they would be issued a building permit.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my understanding. That's why I wanted to make sure everybody was sort of clear on what's actually before us with respect to that terrace and what would be within our purview to do. Thank you.
Yes. Panel members, just fellow panel members, for my part, as I listened to the speakers, it just struck me that the thrust of their comments and their concerns, legitimately, were with respect to the slope and the possible degradation of the slope and the appearance of the slope and so on. They were very concerned about that. There seemed, there weren't many comments directed toward the actual variances in terms of where the variances have got to now. So I was, and I was fairly satisfied that the agent and the owner have revised the application to the point that it seems to have pretty good acceptance by neighbors. One even voiced support of the present proposal outright, and a couple voiced support of the parking pad, which I found interesting. So I think in its current form, as we all have been saying again and again with respect to the drawings of the 24th of June, that I could support this, and also with the wording, the clarity on wording and numerical values and so on that we made at the beginning of our discussion, that I can support it. So, at this point, I would look to panel for a motion with respect to the application, please.
Sorry, just for clarity, everyone keeps using the different dates. So the date on the plan provided by the architect is June 24th. The date we received them is June 25th. So if there is a condition tying to any of the plans, it would be the plans received by our office on June 25th.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Byatt.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to expedite by bringing forth a motion that we accept the application as is, and we tie it to the plans received on June 25th.
When you say as is, you mean as we amended it?
Yes, I beg your pardon, we did amend it as amended, and tied to the plans received on the 25th.
Good, thank you. Panel members, is there a second to that motion? It is seconded by Mr. Chang. So motion to approve is forward and seconded. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried. The application is so approved, and the panel moves on to item number 39.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry to interrupt. The YouTube stream is reaching its limit. I'm wondering if we can take a short break so that we can switch to a new stream.
You need a short break to change. Okay, for technical reasons, panel and those watching, we need to take a short break. Here, we'll say 5 minutes to allow a technical switch over here. Back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
To everybody watching on YouTube, this stream is going to end and there will be a new one shortly.